Every fall on 9/11, we'd like to do a 9/11 run to remember the lives lost on that day and to kind of keep the lessons learned present within our team.
For me, it was a way to always remember that day, remember the sacrifices that people had to make on that day. It's getting farther and farther away from that date, and so our guys don't necessarily have firsthand knowledge. So giving them a reminder and letting them understand how impactful that day certainly was for me, but also for our country.
We have a Fitton Field down at the bottom of campus that has a ton of bleachers, and basically we put on an 80-pound backpack full of whatever we can, whether it be lacrosse balls, water bottles, whatever. And we have tribes set up where basically it's teams that get together and we compete and see who can run the stadium as fast as you can, making sure that we do every step, and it ends up coming to be the amount of steps that it would have taken to run up and down the Twin Towers.
I think it brings our guys closer together, just knowing a little bit more about where they came from and their stories. You know, and I think it's just something that we can always go back to throughout the year and throughout the journey, remembering, again, how it changed our lives and getting our guys to understand that. And again, we have a little bit of fun with it, but also realizing that it was a sober day in our country's history, and you know, we certainly want to remember those that we lost on that day.
I actually had a story pretty close to home with 9/11. Wasn't born before 9/11, but my father was a fireman, Engine 93 in Washington Heights. He was off of work that day, but with the department-wide recall, he was called into his fire department as soon as the first tower was hit. On that day, he has tons of stories of friends he lost, but also the courage he saw on that day, and has plenty of stories about kind of going through the debris, hoping to find any kind of recognizable things to help give families closure, but also just kind of the compassion that he had for people that he didn't know.
There are so many lessons that can be learned from that day, getting our guys to understand how precious freedom is and how it can be taken away. And some of these guys weren't born when it happened, and trying to keep history front of mind and get them to understand the gravity of the situation, and again, kind of go outside of themselves and connect with their community or their family to learn some stories.
When I was growing up, my father always made sure to remind me of that day and kind of tell me as much as he could about that day. You know, there's many reasons why we should always remember, but I think chiefly to that is because there are themes from that day that I think our world needs to remember today. The composure and the willingness to care for others that was shown on that day, from civilians in the workplace to first responders who didn't expect to be, you know, responding on that day. But, you know, keeping the composure and keeping the compassion for others is something that's really important to remember.
1, 2, 3.